I lit the match and watched my brother's face burn in the fireplace. Not his flesh, but the framed photo of us as kids that he'd signed with forever. Ethan. The flames licked up the edges, curling his smug smile into ash, and I felt nothing but the sweet sting of finally exhaling after 10 years of holding my breath underwater. They said revenge is a dish best served cold, but mine was scorching, right there in the penthouse I'd bought with the blood money they thought they'd buried with me. And just like that, with one flick of my wrist, the first domino fell, the one that would topple their empire and drag them all screaming into the hell they'd built for me. It started in the sticky summer of 15, back when Brooklyn still felt like home instead of a graveyard of broken promises. I was Addison Hale, 25 and hungry, fresh out of Columbia with a business degree that shone brighter than the rat-infested walk-up I shared with my brother Ethan and his fiancée, Lila. Ethan was the golden boy, charismatic, ruthless, the kind of guy who could charm a loan shark into writing poetry. We'd grown up in the shadow of Dad's construction empire in Queens, scraping by after Mom bailed when I was 12, leaving us with a fridge full of regrets and a father who drowned his failures in cheap bourbon. Ethan and I were thick as thieves, or so I thought. He was the face. I was the brains, quiet Addison, crunching numbers while he shook hands and sealed deals. Lila slithered into our lives like a designer handbag you can't afford, but buy anyway. She was all sharp cheekbones and sharper ambitions. A trust fund dropout from the Upper East Side who'd slum it in Brooklyn to find herself. They met at some rooftop mixer in Williamsburg, and within months, she was whispering in Ethan's ear about scaling up, turning Dad's mom-and-pop outfit into a real estate juggernaut. I saw the red flags, her eyes glazing over family dinners when talk turned to ethics. The way she'd coo about disrupting the market, while eyeing eviction notices like they were cocktail napkins. But Ethan? He was blind, or maybe just willfully stupid. She's the spark, Addie, he'd say, slinging an arm around her. You handle the spreadsheets, she'll handle the vision. The vision was Hale Developments 2.0, luxury condos rising from the bones of low-income neighborhoods in Bed-Stuy and Bushwick. Gentrification on steroids, baby. We'd flip crumbling brownstones into glass and steel monuments to excess, pricing out the families who'd called those blocks home for generations. I pushed back at first, late nights arguing over takeout lo mein, me citing displacement stats from some urban planning journal, Ethan laughing it off with a beer in hand. It's progress, sis. Folks gotta move with the times. Lila would watch from the couch, legs crossed like a spider, filing her nails. But money talked louder than morals. And when the first deal closed, a 7-figure profit on a gutted tenement, we were hooked. Or at least, they were. I buried myself in the ledgers, making sure every I was dotted, every loophole sealed. Then came the pinnacle project, the crown jewel that should have been our ticket to the big leagues. A 40-story tower in Dumbo, waterfront views that screamed new money, backed by a shady consortium of investors Lila had networked with at her daddy's Hamptons parties. The catch? Permits. Brooklyn's zoning board was a nest of bureaucrats. And to grease the wheels, we needed dirt, emails, photos, whatever it took to blackmail a holdout councilman named Ruiz. Ethan balked at first. This ain't us, Lil. But she turned on the waterworks. All doe-eyed vulnerability. It's for us, baby. For our future. And just like that, he flipped. They flipped me, too, without me knowing. I was the one who found the files, buried in a subfolder labeled contingencies on the shared drive. Screenshots of Ruiz with a city clerk in a compromising clinch. Forged docs making it look like he'd skimmed kickbacks on a school renovation. It was textbook extortion. The kind that lands you in federal pound-me-up if the feds catch wind. But Ethan swore it was bluff leverage, not action. Just insurance. Addie. Lila's idea. But we'll never use it. I believed him, because I wanted to. Because blood's thicker than ink. The night before the zoning vote, Ethan called me into the office after hours. Rain hammered the windows like accusations, and Lila was there, perched on the desk in a silk blouse that cost more than my rent. "We need you to sign off on the transfer," Ethan said, sliding papers across the desk. It was routine, moving funds from the project escrow to cover delays. I skimmed it, saw the numbers matched, and inked my name without a second thought. Brothers don't lie to sisters. Fiancés don't sabotage families. The hammer fell 2 weeks later. FBI vans screeching up to the site at dawn, agents in windbreakers hauling crates of evidence while hard hats scattered like roaches. Ruiz had flipped, sung like a canary about the blackmail attempt, and traced the digital fingerprints right back to our server. But the smoking gun? My signature on those transfer docs. Turns out, Lila had doctored them, rerouted the funds not to delays, but to an offshore account tied to the extortion play. It looked like I'd siphoned the cash myself, laundering it through shell companies she'd set up in my name. Ethan? Clean as a whistle. His access logs corrupted, emails scrubbed. Lila? A ghost, visiting family in Europe when the cuffs came out. I remember the arrest like a fever dream, zip ties biting my wrists, Miranda rights blurring in the fluorescent glare of the precinct. Ethan showed up at the arraignment, face pale as milk, whispering through the glass. "This is a mistake. Addie. We'll fix it. Lila? Nowhere." The plea deal was a nightmare. 5 years at Rikers for fraud and conspiracy. My degree in the trash. My name synonymous with crooked developer. Dad died of a heart attack 3 months in, blaming me in his last raspy call. "You shamed us." Girl. The media feast was brutal. Headlines screaming, "Heiress heist. How Addison Hale fleeced Brooklyn." Protests outside the courthouse. Families I displaced picketing with signs calling me the devil in Louboutins. Ethan visited once. Early on. Lila's gone, bolted with some investor prick. But I've got a plan. Lay low. Cease. When you get out, we'll rebuild. His eyes darted. Guilty, but greedy. I saw it then. The flip, the way he'd let her pin it on me to save his skin. He didn't fight the frame job, he enabled it. And when I pressed, he ghosted. No letters. No appeals fund. Just silence. Thicker than the concrete walls. Parole came in 21. Early for good behavior. I walked out with $200 gate money and a felony rap that barred me from every white-collar gig in the 5 boroughs. They forgot I existed. Ethan married some Park Avenue blonde, rebranded Hale Developments as Ethos Properties, and kept building same scams. Shinier logos. Lila resurfaced on his arm at a gala, reconciled after a wild phase. Social media was a shrine to their ascent. Yacht weekends in the Hamptons. Gender reveal parties for their perfect spawn. Me? I vanished into the cracks of America, waitressing in Jersey dives, crashing on couches, nursing the rage that kept me alive. But rage is a hell of a motivator. I clawed my way up, not with their dirty money, but mine scraped from odd jobs. Night classes in coding, freelancing blockchain audits for crypto startups that didn't Google their hires. By 24, I had a nest egg. Flipped it into distressed real estate in forgotten Rust Belt towns. Buffalo, Detroit, buying low. Rehabbing quiet. Selling to families who needed a break. Not a boot on their neck.
No gentrification gospel.
Just solid flips. It snowballed. Last year, I closed on the condo, a glass airy in Midtown Manhattan, 2,000 square feet of unobstructed Hudson views. Bought cash from a tech bro's divorce settlement. My fortress. My fuck you. The photo? It was innocent, a candid snap from my realtor's drone, posted to my private Insta story for a laugh. Me on the balcony, wind-whipped hair, skyline at dusk, captioned from Rikers to riches. I forgot to lock the story to close friends. Ethan saw it first, algos being the bitches they are, pushing suggested views to family ties. By morning, my DMs exploded. Addie? Holy shit. Call me. Then Lila. We need to talk. Family emergency.
Desperate. Starved.
And oh, how I'd make them beg. I let them stew for a week. Watching the messages pile up like unpaid bills, Ethan's shifting from shock to schmooze. Lila's from faux concern to outright panic. It's about the kids, she typed once. A low blow I knew was bullshit. Their spawn was 3 and toothless. Not old enough for real trouble. But I screenshotted every plea, building my digital noose. Revenge isn't rushed. It's marinated. Slow-cooked until the meat falls off the bone. Finally, I replied to Ethan. My place. Friday, 8 p.m. Come alone. No warmth. No questions. Just coordinates to my building 1-1, the kind of address that whispers old money but screams new power. He showed early, buzzing from the lobby like a supplicant, voice cracking through the intercom. Addie?
Jesus.
This place. I watched him on the security feed, fidgeting in a rumpled Brooks Brothers suit, the same one he'd worn to my sentencing, minus the smug grin. The doorman, a grizzled ex-cop I'd hired for his discretion, patted him down out of habit. Or maybe my quiet instruction. Ethan emerged from the elevator shell-shocked, eyes bugging at the open-plan sprawl, Eames chairs flanking a basalt fireplace. Basquiat knockoff on the wall, real ones too flashy for my ghosts. And that view, city lights pulsing like a vein ready to burst. Drink, I offered, pouring 2 fingers of Macallan into crystal lowballs. No ice, neat. Like the truth. He nodded, collapsing onto the sectional, rubbing his neck like it ached from the weight of his lies. You look good.
Sis.
Better than good. How the hell? Save the awe for the after party. I cut in, handing him the glass. We clinked, mine barely touched my lips, and dove straight into the autopsy of the past. He spilled it piecemeal, the way cowards do, how Lila had orchestrated the frame from the jump, whispering that Ruiz was a sure thing if we just nudged him. How she'd backdated the transfers on her laptop, forging my e-signatures with keystroke mimics she'd lifted from my browser history. I found out too late, Ethan lied.
Eyes down.
After the raid. She confessed, said it was to protect the baby we were planning. I covered for her. Addie. For us. Thought if I played dumb, the heat would pass. Covered for her.
Not me.
The words hung, acrid as smoke. I leaned forward, voice steady as a surgeon's scalpel. You let me rot. 5 years. Ethan. Dad's grave. The headlines, Felon Addison. And you rebranded. Married the snake. Built your little kingdom on my bones. He flinched. But there was that flip again, the defensiveness creeping in.
Justifying.
It wasn't like that. The investors would have torched everything. I had to think of the family business. Dad's legacy. Legacy. The word tasted like bile. I stood, pacing to the windows. The city a glittering accusation below. Legacy? You mean the one where I took the fall for your greed? Remember the pinnacle? Those families Ruiz was fighting for, the single moms. The bodega owners? We bulldozed them because Lila said vision. And when it blew up, you pinned the bribe on me. His face crumpled. But I pressed, circling like a shark. Tell me about the secret,
Ethan.
the one you buried deeper than my appeals. He froze, glass midway to his lips. The secret, the real gut punch they'd hidden. Not just the frame job.
But the why.
Turns out, Lila hadn't stopped at forgery. During the chaos of the vote, she'd greenlit a side hustle, dumping toxic waste from the site into the Gowanus Canal, skimping on environmental reports to cut costs. It was minor, she swore, barrels of solvent flushed under cover of night, but one leaked, sickening a cluster of kids in a nearby daycare. Leukemia spikes. Cover-ups. Ruiz sniffing around not just for zoning, but for the poison. That's why the blackmail, to silence him. And when the feds looped in the EPA, Ethan diverted the trail straight to me, fabricating logs of me signing off on the disposal permits. I'd borne that crime.
2.
The slow poison of guilt in my cell, wondering if those headlines hid funerals. I didn't know about the dump until after, he stammered now, sweat beading on his brow. Lila handled ops. By then, it was too late to unwind. Too late. The flip again, blaming her, absolving himself. But I saw the schemer in him, the mirror of her, opportunistic, always one step ahead of the blame. And now, I asked, voice silk over steel. Why the desperation? That photo didn't just say, I'm back. It said, I know. He drained his scotch, setting the glass down with a clink that echoed like a gavel. It's unraveling. Again. Ethos has this new project, Harbor Heights, Staten Island. Massive. But the financing's drying up. Investors pulling out after some whistleblower leaked old Pinnacle docs. His eyes pleaded. We need a silent partner. Your flips, I've been tracking them. You're clean.
Addie.
Untouchable. Lend us the capital. Co-sign the loans.
For old times.
For family. Family. The hook I'd baited. I laughed. Low and mirthless. Pouring refills. You forgot I existed until my view screamed success. Now you want my money to bail out your mess? What's the catch?
Ethan?
Another frame? Or just the satisfaction of dragging me back into the dirt? He leaned in, voice dropping to conspiracy hush.
No catch. But.
Lila. She's spiraling. Thinks the leaks are from inside. Maybe Ruiz's ghost. Or a pissed-off ex-employee. And the kids. One's showing symptoms. Doctors say it's nothing. But after Gowanus. The flip, now playing the victim card. Invoking innocence to mass complicity. I felt the tension coil. The room shrinking under the weight of unspoken accusations. Part of me, the old Addison, wanted to believe, to bridge the chasm with forgiveness. But the new one? She saw the ploy. Reel me in. Use my redemption to launder theirs. We talked till midnight, circling the drain of what-ifs. He promised shares, atonement, a public clearing of my name. I nodded, feigning thaw. Even hugged him at the door, his cologne the same as Dad's. A sucker punch. Think it over, he murmured. Elevator doors swallowing him. I did. All night. Staring at the city that had chewed me up and spat me out richer. Harder. By dawn, the plan crystallized. I'd help. But on my terms. The revenge wouldn't be a blaze. It'd be a slow bleed. Decisions so gray they'd fracture loyalties. Leave readers, hell, even me questioning who the villain really was. The next move was Lila. I texted her coordinates for Sunday brunch at my place. Ethan filled me in. Let's bury the hatchet. Her reply was instant. Heart emojis. A gif of champagne popping. Schemer to schemer. She arrived in Lululemon armor. Botox smooth and Stepford bright. Clutching a bakery box of cronets like a peace offering. Addie. God. This view, it's criminal. Criminal. Both.
Kettle.
We air-kissed. Settled on the balcony with mimosas fizzing in the sun. Small talk first. Her mommy blog. Ethan's golf handicap. The baby bump she'd miraculously conceived post-reunion. Then,
The probe.
I know about the dump, I said casually, sipping orange juice laced with spite. Her smile froze. Mimosa glass hovering. Ethan told you? Lie detected. She'd flip to outrage if he had.
No.
I pieced it together in the joint. Those EPA memos in Discovery? Subtle, but damning. Her eyes narrowed. Calculating. It was a mistake. Addie. Cost-cutting in a crunch. No one got hurt bad. 4 kids with blood work that screams benzene, I snapped. The first crack in my cool. She recoiled, then rallied with that patented flip, tears welling, voice quivering. You think I wanted that? Ethan pushed for the skimps. I was just the ops girl. Blame shifting. Classic Lila. But there was more, the secret within the secret. She'd confessed to Ethan years back, during a Hamptons bender, that the dump wasn't accidental. It was payback. Ruiz had rejected her advances at a fundraiser, called her a spoiled dilettante. So she'd poison his crusade, quite literally, knowing it'd taint the water and his rep. Ethan covered it. Of course, because by then he was in too deep, addicted to the wins. You're both poison, I said, voice flat. She blinked, then laughed, a brittle champagne bubble. And you're what? St. Addison? You signed those transfers. Knew the game.
Touché.
The controversy simmered. I'd ignored red flags. Enabled the empire. Was my innocence as fabricated as their guilt? She leaned in, switching to ally mode. Help us.
Addie.
Harbor Heights is clean green tech. Affordable units. Your money makes it real. And the leaks? I think it's Marcus, our CFO. He's gunning for Ethan's spot. Marcus Klein. The wild card, Ethan's old frat bro. Lila's ex-fling. A chameleon who jumped ship from Pinnacle to Ethos. Then started whispering to regulators. The brunch dragged. A tense tango of half-truths. She dangled equity. Whispered about exposing Marcus to clear the board. I played along. Sketching a deal on a napkin, 20% silent stake. My name scrubbed from old records via a fixer she knew. But underneath, the trap set, I'd feed her just enough rope to hang them both. By the time she left, hugging me like a sister, the air crackled with unease. Who was playing who? Her flips made it muddy. Victim one breath, viper the next. And me, the betrayed plotting betrayal. The city hummed below, indifferent, as I texted Marcus anonymously, "They fear you. Strike now." The leaks escalated like a summer storm. Time to my whispers. First, a Politico drop. Ethos Properties sued by ex-Pinnacle tenants for environmental negligence, citing gowanus toxins with eerie detail. Marcus's handiwork. Fed by my anonymous drops, sanitized docs eyed FOIA'd from prison connections. Ethan called frantic. "Addie, you seeing this? It's sabotage." I feigned shock. Offered solace over burner phone. "Let me dig." Lila mentioned Marcus. "Plant the seed." He bit, raging about disloyalty, vowing boardroom blood. But Lila? She countered with her own flip, cornering me at a neutral lunch in Soho, some farm-to-table spot where influencers snapped avocado toast like it cured cancer. "It's not Marcus," she hissed over salads, eyes darting like a cornered fox. "It's you." The accusation landed like a gut punch, her voice low venom. "Ethan's blind, but I see it, the timing. Your sudden windfall. You're bleeding us dry for kicks." Controversial truth. Part of her was right. I'd rebuilt on spite, every flip a middle finger to their world. But the full flip came next, her pleading, switching to co-conspirator. "If it's payback."
Fine.
"But cut a deal. Expose Marcus for real. He's the dumper."
Not me.
"I have proof. Tucked in a Cayman safe." We split Ethos 60-40. You and me. Sisters against the snake.
Sisters.
The word twisted like a knife. I stared her down, fork-piercing arugula. "Proof? Or another frame?" She slid her phone across. Unlocked gallery, grainy time-stamped vid of Marcus heaving barrels into the canal. Night vision green. Staged? Maybe. But it cracked the facade. Lila. Scheming to sacrifice her husband for a bigger slice. Flipping loyalty like a bad bet. The tension peaked here. The gray zone where right and wrong blurred. Was she monster or survivor? I'd enabled her once, now. A lying again felt like suicide. "Send it to the feds," I said finally. Anonymously. Then we talk split.
Lie.
I'd forward it to Ethan first. Let the domestic implosion do the work. Harbor Heights broke ground amid the chaos. A ribbon-cutting photo op turned circus. Protesters chanting "Ethos kills," helicopters whirring overhead. I watched from afar. My 20% wired silent. The fixer she'd promised ghosting my name from dockets. Cleanish. But the climax brewed in my condo that stormy October night. The three of us summoned by Ethan's SOS text, "Emergency." All hands. They arrived soaked. Thunder rumbling like judgment. Ethan wild-eyed. Lila composed but cracking. Marcus trailing as the consultant they dragged in for damage control. I'd invited him via a forged Lila email. The spider's web tightening. The living room felt like a pressure cooker. Scotch flowing freer than truths. Ethan paced, ranting about saboteurs. "Someone's got the old files, gowanus." "All of it." Marcus lounged, smirking. The flip artist supreme, loyal to none. Flipping from Ethan's bro to Lila's lover to my unwitting pawn. "Maybe it's karma." He drawled, Brooklyn accent thick. Pinnacle was rotten from the root. Lila shot him daggers. Then turned on me, the vid burning a hole in her pocket. Or maybe it's family settling scores. The air thickened. Accusations flying like shrapnel. Ethan defending her, she's changed. Her flipping to defend him, he was clueless. Marcus laughing, you all deserve the doc. I let it boil, sipping from the shadows, until the hook, pulling the ashed photo remnant from my pocket, Ethan's boyish grin. Half charred. This is where it started. And ends. They stared. The room fracturing into camps. Ethan pleading brotherhood. Lila offering alliance. Marcus proposing we all burn it down and split the insurance. Controversial decisions reigned. Who to trust? I flipped too. Momentarily. Marcus. You're out. Videos with the DA tomorrow. His face drained. He'd staged it. But now trapped. Lila lunged. No. He's mine to bury. Clawing at my arm. Nails drawing pinpricks of blood. Ethan shoved between. Addie. Stop this. The standoff. Me with the phone. Them circling. The city storm raging outside. Lightning etching their faces in stark relief. No one fully right. No villain pure. Ethan's greed birthed it. Lila's spite poisoned it. Marcus profited. And I'd borne the sin but sown the revenge. The twist hit like thunder, as sirens wailed distant. My tip to Emily. Parking tickets on Ethos trucks laced with warrants. Ethan confessed the buried secret's core. The kids. They're mine and Lila's. But not from the reunion. From before your trial. She was pregnant then. Addie. I framed you to protect her. To protect them. The room spun. I'd rotted for a fetus I never knew. Family twisted into fetal position. Lila sobbed. Real this time. Marcus bolted for the door. Only to find my doorman, ex-cop, with cuffs ready. In the melee, shouts. Slaps. A vase shattering like trust, I made the call, deleted the vid, whispered to Ethan. Take the fall.
Clean.
For the kids. He nodded. Broken. Flipping to sacrifice. Lila begged me to join the exodus. Run with us. But I shoved her toward him.
Go.
But know this. The condo's wired. Every word. Every flip, it's all on server. If you rebuild, I haunt you. They fled into the storm. Marcus dragged away howling betrayal. Epilogues gray. Ethos folded under probes. Ethan plea bargained 5 like mine. Lila vanished to Europe with the kids, untouched. The ultimate flip. Marcus sang. Got immunity. Started a whistleblower podcast trashing us all.
Me?
I sold the condo. Moved to a quiet loft in Detroit. Flipping houses for real families. The rage ebbed to embers. Happy? Tragic? You debate. Did I avenge or just perpetuate the cycle? The photo that started it all? Framed on my new wall. A reminder they forgot. But memory's the sharpest blade. And in America's grind, that's the real empire.